Accepting chemical dependency as a legitimate disease has always been difficult for a great number of people, even though in 1956 the American Medical Association actually came out with a statement that said that this is a disease. There are very clear symptoms, there's a progression, and it is a treatable disease. There are four things to remember about this, in that it's primary, chronic, progressive, and fatal.
Chemical dependence goes to the very heart of our character. It has to do with how we think about ourselves. It has to do with how we relate to other people. We are not responsible for it. It's a disease like any disease, and we're not responsible for diabetes. We're not responsible for rheumatoid arthritis, and we're not responsible for chemical dependence. But we are responsible for what we do about it every day of our lives.
The alcoholic or the drug addict in many families is kind of like the big white elephant who sits in the middle of the living room floor, and everybody makes believe it's not there. Everybody walks around it, steps over it, makes adjustments for it, but nobody ever calls it to anybody else's attention. It's the secret in the family, and secrets keep families sick.
The attitude change that I have seen when people finally recognize that somebody has the disease and it's not a matter of willpower or this person is doing it on purpose, it is phenomenal. Because obviously if they believe this person is ill and they're not doing it on purpose and they truly are sincerely deluded, there is more compassion, and there's also more of a tolerance. Now, some of the ways that we treat and recommend treating people that have this disease is not that we tolerate unacceptable behavior or intolerable behavior, but we allow them to experience the full consequences of their actions.
She was a model child. She was in the ASB. You know, all the kindergarten mothers used to say, oh, I hope my daughter turns out as well as she has. So when she started in high school in 9th grade and started, I think she was 14 when she took her first drink, and it just went from there. And it's the party atmosphere, it's the... She had the disease of alcoholism, and it kicked in.
Addiction is the strongest thing I've ever really experienced, because, you know, you just have such, I just had such a drive, you know. Nothing was going to get in the way of me getting my drugs or my alcohol, you know. There was just such a strong determination and drive inside me, you know, and when I couldn't get it, I was mad, and that's all I thought about. Well, how can we do this, you know? And the normal person, you know, said, oh, well, no big deal.
I think an intervention is an act of love and caring on two fronts. I think it's an act of love and caring for the alcoholic. I also think it's an act of love and caring for oneself, because to watch another person destroy himself or herself through the disease of alcoholism is not a fun thing to do. It's a very painful thing to watch another person kill themselves, basically, is what they're doing, because alcoholism is chronic, progressive, and fatal.
Well, hearing about how my use affected my family really set me off guard, made me feel real vulnerable, and it just sort of got rid of my defenses, and they weren't really there anymore, because I was actually listening to what they had to say and, you know, realizing and thinking about it, you know, and I just realized how awful it must have been to live in that house with me. You know, I wouldn't want to live with me. But it really got me thinking, you know, and it really just, my defenses were just gone.
Somehow I was able never to lose touch with the special person that she is. And when she was in the worst of her disease behavior, and I mean, she was vicious. She was abusive, angry, hardly describes it. And yet, through the grace of God, I never lost sight of who was under it, and I was able to love her unconditionally.
Now, as I look back on my intervention, I feel that my parents really did care about me, and they were doing it out of love instead of just trying to be mean, evil parents, you know. And I didn't realize how much of a hard person I had become to live with, you know, how hard it had become to live with me acting the way I was acting, because, you know, if they hadn't have done that, I don't know where I'd be today. You know, I couldn't even begin to imagine, or I wouldn't want to either.
To me, when I think of delusional thinking, I think of it as when someone has a belief or a set of beliefs that don't match reality. One of the most consistent delusions for an alcoholic is that the people around me can't tell that I have a problem. The people around me can't see it. They'll show up at a talk, a speech, at their office, in work settings, all kinds of places, intoxicated or loaded, high, coked up, whatever it might be, thinking that nobody there can tell, when in fact it's very obvious to everybody around them. That's the delusion. When a person believes that nobody knows there's a pattern to this problem and can't see what's going on, that's a delusion. So it's basically when a person's not in touch with reality.
Yes, you'll hear a lot of alcoholic people say, I drink because of all the problems I have. See, lacking the insight to say, I'm having all of my problems because I'm drinking. It's kind of like an alcoholic has his glasses in backwards. They see things differently than everybody else sees them. In other words, I drink because my wife's on my back. I'm having financial problems because my job is bad. It's not that I'm drinking too much. You know, see, the alcoholic sometimes is the last person in the world to realize that all the problems are coming from drinking, not the other way around. See, that's delusional thinking. He's got his glasses in backwards.
So the delusional thinking is a process whereby the disease protects itself so it can remain alive. And I separate the disease and the person, because the disease is a very powerful, cunning, and baffling disease, and it's very much to the point where it robs the person of their ability to think clearly or have any idea of what reality is.
And at one point I remember telling my wife that I finally realized I had a problem with cocaine, and that was the morning that I woke up and I didn't have any, and that was a real problem. Without it, I couldn't respond, I couldn't move, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't exist. It's a killer. It created a lot of destruction for me and for my family and for my friends. Financially, it destroyed us. My relationship with my wife, it took it all the way down, you know, to the very bottom. I went from, you know, a respectable citizen in the community to, you know, a liar, cheat, and a thief. I would get up in the morning and I would need a line of cocaine in order to get from the bed to the bathroom. From there, I would have to do some more coke in order to get into the kitchen to turn on a coffee machine. And all day long, all I would do is the drug in order to do the next move. My intervention took place with me, my wife, and my employer. And it was made point clear to me that unless I got some form of treatment, that one, I was going to lose my job, and two, I was going to lose my wife. The end result, after I accepted the fact that I'm going in for some treatment, there is some help. There was a lot of relief that came over me. People telling me that they cared about me, and that they loved me, that, you know, I'm not a piece of junk, and I deserve better than what I've been giving myself and my family and the company that I work for, and that they were there for me, and they honestly cared about me. And since the intervention, my life has changed drastically. I've been clean and sober for almost 5 years. Today I'm a functioning member of society. I have the same job that I almost lost, and I have the love and caring and understanding of a wonderful wife. My family did for me what I could not do for myself. Their loving and caring that they put forth changed my life.
Enabling is that process in which loved ones, family members, co-workers, supervisors actually assist that person in the progression of their fatal disease by rescuing them, by covering up for them, by lying about it. The supervisor, for instance, who would say, well, you're obviously not feeling too up to par today, so why don't you go home, take the rest of the day off, and come back tomorrow when you're feeling better, knowing full well that that person is having a hangover. Or the wife who calls her husband in sick, saying that her husband has the flu, or he has what's going around, knowing full well that her husband can't go to work because he was drunk all weekend, and he's got a terrible hangover this morning. See, by rescuing him, by covering up for his behavior, she is also feeding into his denial, because he can honestly say, well, no, I don't have a problem at my job. Well, of course not, because the wife lied about it. She covered up for him.
Out of ignorance, a lot of families continue the enabling process. They don't realize what they're doing, and of course the person that has the disease, the ultimate end is, like I said, insanity or death. They will die, and the family will continue to be infected, and I oftentimes think of it as a cold. You can't be around someone with pneumonia or a cold too long without becoming infected, and I don't mean that they contract the disease of chemical dependency, but they start taking on some of these roles. They become dysfunctional at some level in that they're avoiding the issue, or they're dancing out one of the patterns that I described before. And so what becomes of the disease is that it continues and it progresses. And the saddest part are people die from this disease and are enabled to die by and protected by the very people that love them.
Originally, I was very naive to I knew that there were alcoholics, and I knew there were drug addicts and stuff like that, but I didn't know the level of depth that it would be in society. And the more I learned about it, the deeper I found that it went. And the more I learned about it in my own work situation, I was amazed at how deep it was in my own company. Had the company not have cleaned up, it would have gone in a worse direction as far as, you know, the quality in the workforce, the lost time, the non-productive time, these type of things. So all in all, we ended up putting 6 of our employees, and at the time we probably had about 50. So we put 6 of our employees through a full-on 30-day treatment program. And on the residuals of that, we had a lot of employees that I know did not have quite the degree of problem that these 6 had, but a lot of them took a look at their personal habits and cleaned those up also. Individually, for me to do the interventions, I had to be very comfortable with it, and I had to be very strong about it and know exactly what this person had to do. You're talking to a drug, you're not talking to the individual, and you have to realize that you have to take their control and put it in your own hands, and you have to have the strength within yourself that you know what's best for that person. And it's one of the most powerful things I've ever done. You know, I've had a lot of successes in my life, and I've had a nice life. But you know, as I look back at how I affected some other people's lives, I mean, it still gives me goosebumps, and it makes me have a real good feeling about myself.
Family members, once they come to realize that this is a disease, face 2 alternatives. They now recognize that they can, if they want, they can continue to do what they call nothing, just watching and waiting and hoping against hope. And they discover, after they've learned this is a disease, that the risk there is nothing less than the identified alcoholic's life. We're not talking about a bad habit, but rather whether this person is going to live or die prematurely. They recognize that choice and that danger, and then they see on the other side that there is an opportunity for some kind of constructive action around taking an intervening stance, where they try to present reality to this person out of touch with it in some receivable way. Now, they also recognize at that time there's a risk. That risk, of course, being that their current relationship with that individual might be harmed. But if they're fair with themselves, they will have to admit, of course, that that relationship is consistently deteriorating as the alcoholism progresses anyway, and is doomed at the end unless some successful intervention takes place with that disease.
People who have this disease, the bottom is death. And so if we let them hit bottom, they're going to be dead.
Remembering that the nature of alcoholism or chemical dependency is such that it renders its victims incapable of spontaneously recognizing how much they need help, intervention is the next most useful effort. Intervention, of course, is presenting reality to somebody out of touch with it in a receivable way. Meaningful persons using very specific incidents which legitimatize their concern, their love for this individual, and allowing the weight of those incidents to carry the day, breaking through the delusion, breaking through what other people call denial, works. The mood should be, I can't watch you die. There has to be something I have to do. Even if it upsets our relationship, I'm willing to risk the relationship we have in order for me not to watch you die.
An intervention is a way that family members, loved ones, co-workers can help someone to get into recovery, out of denial into recovery. Let me give you a definition of intervention. Intervention is a process whereby family members, loved ones give information, very specific information, to someone to help them gain insight, to help them make that connection between their behavior and the fact that they drink or use drugs. Basically, that's what an intervention is. It's a meeting. It's a meeting done in love and respect, in which people become very honest and help that person who is in delusional thinking make that insightful jump from delusion to knowledge or acceptance of the fact that he or she is drinking and using too much. The first step of a successful intervention is to select a team of people who are willing to confront this person with their behavior. A team of people need to be of like mind. They all need to understand the disease. They need to be willing to take that risk, because an intervention is taking a risk. So a team of people who are willing to take the risk of presenting this person that they love with the facts of their drinking and using and how they feel about it.
What gives you the most power, though, is that you're in a group. That power, you could take 5 people, and if each one of those 5 people go separately, individually, and talk to the person who's chemically dependent, and probably get nowhere. Those same 5 people come and talk and say the same thing now together to a person who's chemically dependent, and the impact is dramatically different. Because not only is this person communicating to the person who's chemically dependent, this person is communicating to the chemically dependent person that these 4 people know what he knows, and so on down the line.
Okay, step 2 is in which each person on that team writes a script or an outline, citing specific examples of how this person's behavior, drinking and using behavior, has caused problems. It needs to be specific. Some general term might be, well, your personality has changed, and that person can come back and say, well, you have changed too. But we need to be specific. We need to give that person specific information of how their personality has changed, specific examples, giving times, place, names. So if enough people in this team write out scripts and give that person enough information, that information can help that person break through their denial system, help them gain insight.
When you actually sit down to write out what you're going to say in a script, it's a fairly detailed process. It's very painful because you're going to allow yourself to see what you usually haven't. You're going to allow yourself to feel what you try to keep covered. And if you don't, the person you're intervening on won't. It's that simple.
As we make the effort to present reality to people out of touch with it, two things are avoided since they are negative in their effect. One is to blame, and the other is to attack. Anything that can be viewed as blaming, anything that can be viewed as attacking is to be avoided. So what we do is set the mood of care and concern. The incidents, the data which are used to legitimatize the concern are presented in caring ways. I love you, and that's the reason I'm having to say what I'm saying. If I didn't, I wouldn't even be here, kind of an impression. In the preparation of individuals for interventions, what I have found it very important to do is to discover what they would do if the individual refuses to accept care. Where have they decided they will be? And having decided, will that be where they will be? And so when I just had one not too long ago where the fellow who's the husband was a psychiatrist, he said, I know what she's going to do. And I said, what's that? He said, she's going to say no. And my reply to that was, yes, I'm sure she will. The question is, what will you do when she says no? And he had to face the issue of whether he was going to continue his relationship with her as a suffering alcoholic who would adamantly refuse to be helped, or would he take some other path? And I couldn't choose that for him, but I had to find out whether he was going to convey to her, as that event proceeded, that he had become decisive about some kind of action.
This is a very ugly, yucky, nasty disease. So in other words, when the disease is being confronted, people are going to be able to do their bottom lines easier if they realize that they're dealing with a destructive disease. And this person will get help later. If they separate the two issues, I think it'll be a lot easier for the family members to follow through on the delivery with their bottom lines.
Another step in the process of intervention is the rehearsal. See, the team members, after they write their scripts and after they wrote out their bottom lines, they need to rehearse this process. The rehearsal gives them hope. The rehearsal kind of pulls it all together. It gives them mutual support, and they feel that they're not alone. You know, when there's a team of 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 people, they can understand that here is a family, here are a group of people that are all pulling together in the same direction to try to help someone that they love very much.
The rehearsal does several things as far as the family is concerned. One, it causes them to realize that they do have a good deal of data to present, which allows them to have more confidence in the process itself. Second, it causes them to recognize that they do have very significant help from the other members of that group. They feel supported in what they're doing. Third, what it does is to give them certain expectations of certain results. because rehearsals can be, by professionals at least, can be presented in such ways that they would anticipate almost everything that can happen. And so with those anticipations already part of their history, they move into, with more confidence, into the actual event.
The next step is to select a time and a place where this person would be most likely to hear what they have to say. Time and place both play an important role. It must be the time of day when that person is more likely to hear what the family has to say, either in the morning or in the evening, but most likely try to catch that person before they start drinking or using. A hangover might be a good time to intervene. But also a place. They need to get a neutral territory. They need to get that person in a place where they would not be likely to just leave or to be interrupted. So a place is very important. There used to be a way thinking that, well, you can't really help someone who doesn't want help. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But we say, we who are proponents of intervention say, yes, but you can help that horse get thirsty. You can help that person want recovery by helping them gain insight. You know, that old thinking of you can't help someone unless they want help doesn't work anymore. You can help someone who doesn't want help. And the process that we use in doing that is intervention.
One of the most remarkable interventions I know of was reported to me by a man in treatment. He said, my little daughter crawled up into my lap. I was a constant drinker. My little 5-year-old daughter crawled up into my lap, looked up in my face and said, Daddy, why do you always smell so bad? I came to treatment.
Okay, Mr. Nordine, I'm a counselor. My name is John Seaman, and I've been invited by these close friends of yours and your family to kind of facilitate a meeting that we're going to have today. And I know Pastor Bob invited you over to his home for this meeting. And what we're going to talk about while we're here together today is to help you with the problem that everybody feels that you have, and that's your drinking. We are going to, we are here because we love you, we care about you, your family and your friends are very concerned about you and the fact that you've been drinking an awful lot recently.
But you don't know anything about me. How could you have anything to do? You wouldn't know, don't know me.
No, I said I'm a facilitator, and your wife called me, and your granddaughter came and spoke to me. Then we asked Teddy, your apartment manager, and your pastor to kind of put this meeting together so that we could talk to you about your drinking.
But don't you think that's something that we should discuss ourselves without having to have someone from the outside in?
No, I think this would be appropriate that we do it this way. I am a counselor, and what I'll be doing is facilitating this meeting.
Got it.
Please, we're asking you not to interrupt. Just sit and listen to each person, and then at the end, Walt, you can say whatever you want to say or do whatever you want to do. Is that fair?
No, it doesn't make any sense. None at all.
Would you please just agree? Your family has gone through a lot of trouble to prepare something that they would like to read to you. And what I'm asking you to do, what we're all asking you to do, is to please listen to us. Listen to each person in turn. Is that fair enough? Would you please do that? Would you please?
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't absolutely doesn't
Well,
make
you
sense.
do recall New Year's when we discussed this before the new year began. And we also talked about your behavior with our friends, that we had to give up a lot of bridge. Do you remember how we used to love bridge? We had to give a lot of it up because you wouldn't show up when you were supposed to. That was very embarrassing. So I did make this resolution that I intended to stick by. That
Hey, I
I'm
was
not
no
gonna
different
put-
than anybody else. I don't drink any more than anybody, any of our friends.
Well, let's just hear me out, please. And these are some decisions. You were pretty good for maybe 2 weeks. Then guess what? In February came Sheila's birthday. You remember that fiasco. That was embarrassing to me, to our friends, and most of all to your granddaughter, Sheila. Okay. Then after Sheila's birthday, I went on for several more weeks. But it finally got to the point that you just kept getting worse and did not improve, did not listen to anybody or adhere to anybody's feelings. So that's when I left you in March.
Yeah, you didn't. Well, that doesn't make any sense either. You didn't have to leave me. It's just because I drink once in a while.
I
Please,
may not have. I may not have had to, but that was my choice. I made the resolution. There was no way I could talk to you, so the only way that I could even convince you what was going on was to leave, because I could not tolerate it anymore. I'm getting older. I have a life of my own.
Well, so am I.
Kay, would you?
For a while, I overlooked it. But I have taken it so long that I am no longer able to take it. I don't think I can cope with not knowing where you are at night, not knowing how you're going to be when people come in the house, not knowing if you're well or not, or where you are. It's been so long. I'm worn out. I just no longer can take that sort of problem. I feel differently about it. It's been a great deal of pressure that I no longer can take. And I just want you to know that. And unless you improve, I will be filing for divorce.
It's your problem. I just don't make it. It doesn't. None of it makes sense to me. This thing is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Okay.
Well, I sort of know how Kay feels, and you know how I feel, because in the last 5 years that you and Kay were in the apartment, you were more than model tenants. You became my very best friends. You were there when I needed you, and you know, with all these new people, I needed you a lot, and you were there. So you're very special. We care about you. But I have noticed that some of the things you've been doing lately, they just are not rational for you. For instance, it was that Jane who found you out in the hall in your underwear, and they weren't even designer shorts.
That was early in the morning, and I didn't think there'd be anybody out in the hall when I went out.
Please listen.
Yeah, I know you said you were taking out the trash. I understand that, but you know, that was a little different for you. And I felt humiliated, because everybody knows that you guys were my best friends, and they're always saying I'm looking over things for you anyway. And you know, last month when we had the general inspection and found your glass collection, all those J.B. Scotch bottles under the bed and in the closet?
No, those I'd saved those for Kay for church. She was using those for some craft down there. That's why they were there.
Okay.
That was just that wasn't. That's been from a long, long time ago.
Walter, please listen.
How about the rent? Now, you know, you've never been late for the rent until Kay left. And now you're late every month. For the last 3 months, you know, you've been...
I never had to take care of those things. She always took care of those. And Red, you know I can take care of that. That money is no problem with me.
Walter, please listen, okay?
Well, I feel really bad about it. And I tell you, Walt, just to be very honest with you, you know, I've had so many complaints that unless you do go and get some help, you know, I'm going to have to give an eviction notice. And that hurts me, you know, because you've been my very best friend. And I hate to have to say that, but that's the bottom line.
I just drink normal, just like anyone else. I'm entitled to it. I'm retired now. I can do some of the things I want to do. There's nothing wrong with me having a drink.
But you're losing control with the drinking now. And I think that's very apparent in your behavior and the things that you do, like being out in the hall, not fully dressed, accumulating bottles for Kay's crafts. I mean, that's not a different Walt.
Well, I'm kind of feeling the pain that you are probably feeling right now, that you're probably looking around saying, hey, here are some good friends of mine. And we are. And I think it's that reason why we're here today, is I care for you. I really love you a lot. I love you as a friend and as one of God's children. You've been my right-hand man as one of the elders in the church. And so I have nothing but praise and nothing but thanks to you. But because of that, I also have a lot of concern for you. And I've seen the drinking. Remember, just quite recently I came to your house. We were having a sort of a get-together. And you told me it was orange juice that you were drinking, and I smelled your breath, and your eyes were a bit bloodshot, and your face was kind of flushed. And I've seen that other times I've kind of overlooked it. and there's been meetings.
Yeah, but Pastor,
Well,
those things at home,
well,
you know, I'm retired. There again,
I know.
I
Okay.
occasionally will have a drink in the morning. That's no, you know, I don't see that there's any big deal about this. That doesn't make me an alcoholic.
Oh, hold on. And I think one of the crowning glories was you told me a building permit. We're getting the new building and everything would be a piece of cake. You have no problem. How many months have gone by now? 3-4 months? It's still not forthcoming.
I gave to my secretary and told her to take care of it for me. And apparently she's just overlooked it. I didn't know it, that it hadn't been taken care of.
But I reminded you at the meetings, and you said you were going to take care of it. And whatever. The thing is that this isn't like you. In the past, I would ask you to do certain things, certain assignments. It was done. I didn't. And things are slipping. Things aren't quite right now. I'm concerned about you. It's to the point, I don't want to say this, but I really feel I need to. We had a meeting with the elders, and you're not going to be welcome to continue as an elder unless you do something about this immediately. And I'd like for you to start today.
Grandpa, you know how much I love you.
Yeah.
And it's been real hard since Mom and Dad died a few years ago, and you and Grandma have been so close to me and so important to me. But I have to tell you that over the last several months, I've really seen a change in you. And I enjoy golfing with you. Every week we get up and we go on Saturday morning. But last Saturday at 9 o'clock, I came to pick you up, and I could smell alcohol in your breath. And then you kind of stumbled a little, and I think like everyone else, I was a little bit in denial, and I did not want to see what was going on. So we got in the car, and you started to drive, and you really, I could tell that you were feeling pretty good. And I said, Grandpa, you know, pull over and let me drive. And we started arguing about it. You didn't want to get out of the car. Finally, I insisted because I was really scared. And I'm not only scared for you and for me, but I'm afraid you're going to hit somebody and kill some children or get in a serious car accident.
You don't have to worry. I've been driving for years and years and years, and I've been drinking for years, and I can handle it. Really, I can handle it. Believe me.
Grandpa, I think in the past you have handled it, or you thought you could, but I believe it's getting worse. And the last few months, it's really bad. And like Grandma said, at my birthday party, I was so embarrassed. You tripped over the ottoman, your drink flew on the couch, all over my friend's new dress.
Honey,
Everybody was looking. It was really, really embarrassing.
But that was an accident. I just tripped. I just stepped backwards.
But it would not have happened if you had not been drinking. And you had had several glasses of scotch that night. I was watching you, and you were getting a little giddy and tripped over that ottoman, and it was really embarrassing for me. I don't feel like I want to spend time with you anymore. It scares me because I don't have my parents anymore. You two are the only people I have anymore, any relatives. And I'm just really afraid because, you know, you're changing, and I don't really want to spend time with you.
Sheila, what would you like from Gramps?
I'd really like you to get some help.
Wow, after 40 years, good years, why do we have to lose the last and what could be the best years?
We don't have to. You don't have to. Just...
Only if you get some treatment so that you can behave in a better manner.
Okay. Are you saying that if Walter doesn't
No,
agree to this?
I am going to file for divorce. That is the bottom line. He has one more chance, and this is it, to either improve, get treatment, or somehow change, because Sheila and I cannot live in a normal fashion as of now.
And if you decide, if you go in, Walt, I'll certainly make sure the apartment is there for you. I'll take care of your plants and do all of those little things that you have been letting go, that you've been neglecting in the last few months.
You've got a lot of love and a lot of power behind you.
I care so much. And I have to say that if you choose not to go into treatment, which I'm really praying to God that you don't decide that, I won't be able to golf with you anymore on Saturdays. I just don't enjoy your company as much as I used to.
Could you just try for us?
And for yourself, Grandpa, really. You may find that life is much more enjoyable without the scotch. I love you too. well too.
Your life will get better. It'll get more wonderful than you ever imagined. Sobriety.
Isn't that a nice thought?
Okay, well,
Okay. I'll go in for an evaluation. I won't promise anything other than that, but I'll do that for you, darling.
okay.
That's a good step.
All right. Good for
God
you.
bless you, and
Now wait to file.
Well done, everybody. Great job.
Good. Come on, guys.